Welcome, welcome, everybody. Thanks for hanging out in the waiting room for us. I saw a lot of familiar names on the list. We're so excited that you're here, especially for our last Coffee and Convo of the year. We've had, I was planning on pulling all the stats for it to talk about how many different amazing educators and tech directors we had on these calls throughout the year, how many webinars we had. We just had so much fun bringing these presentations to you throughout the year and sitting down and chatting with you all. So for those who are along for the whole ride in 2022, thanks for being here. But today we're going to talk about...
I think we should figure out who has gotten the most coffee. Just cups of coffee and get them a little badge. Send them something.
We'll gamify it next year. Whoever gets the most, whoever shows up at the most coffee and combos will get a little badge. How about? All right. Well, people are still coming in a little bit, but I will just do a couple housekeeping things before I pass it on to our presenters. Again, I'm Kate from Trafera, the one that sends you all the emails. I will be here moderating the chat. If you don't know where to find the chat function, it's in that bottom functions bar. It's the chat bubble. Ask any questions that you have throughout the presentation in there. I will be watching that and passing them along to our presenters, Shane, and our host, Scott. Also, if you want to get that coffee gift card, for those of you who are regulars, you know, stick around for the exit survey. You need to do that if you want to qualify for the gift card. So stick around to the end, do the exit survey, ask any questions you have in the chat. I will be watching it the whole time, but we can warm that thing up. How about you hop in the chat and you just tell us where you're coming in from, what you're going to get with your Starbucks gift card. I think I said last week I was going to get a white chocolate mocha, and I never did. I never did, but this week maybe I will. But yeah, I will pass it on over to Scott, and he can kind of get us rolling on today's topic.
Hey everybody, it is so awesome to see you guys here. Would love to have you guys toss in your chat who you are and where you're from. And I'm just typing out a quick thing. And I'm so excited to talk about this topic. In case you don't know who I am, my name is Scott Gennard. I'm a teaching and learning consultant here for Trafera. And that's as of just a couple months ago. A couple months ago, I was sitting in your chairs. I was a director of technology in outside Sacramento, California. I was a happy Trafera customer. Before that, I was a principal/director of technology for a few years for a charter school around there. Spent a few years as a tech coordinator before that. Before that, a special ed teacher. So in total, just about 15 years in education, a lot of that time spent on the educational technology front. And I love talking with our amazing partners. Today we have Lenovo here, who I just love their products, love their suite. And this topic today of STEM, CTE solutions, this interconnected thing that we have really reaches a passion of mine, where we're talking about how do we not only provide awesome educational experiences for our students and do super engaging stuff from esports and, you know, engineering programs and coding and robotics and all this amazing stuff for our students, but also how can we really maximize on the fiscal side some of those products that really hit multiple arenas. And I think that we can really share some amazing expertise from Shane here with Lenovo, and really look forward to this conversation. As Kate said, if you have any questions or anything for Shane or myself, for anyone, toss those in the chat. We will have a time for a Q&A at the end, where we'll make sure to get that. But we so appreciate you guys being here. And yeah, I'm going to pass it on to Shane. Shane, if you want to introduce yourself, and we can get going.
Thanks, Scott. I really appreciate it. And good afternoon, everybody, or good morning for anybody on the West Coast. Appreciate being here today. I think we're going to have a lot of fun just talking about some STEM and CT solutions and how we can actually help do those labs that are multi-purpose labs today in the environment. But more importantly, we're going to start out with a little real great opportunities here. This $5 gift card will almost get you one of those Christmas coffees at Starbucks. You only have to kick in the tax and the cup charge, so it'll get you real close. But as a Starbucks fan, I think that everybody can really enjoy it. I'm Shane Pigeon. I am the workstation specialist for the Southeast for Lenovo. I'm a reformed engineer, mechanical engineer for the company. I did help design a lot of our prior workstation products to up until a couple years ago. In which case, I came out here to help school districts and everybody be able to make the best selections possible to run STEM and CTE programs effectively around the country. I had a great opportunity, and I wanted to share this with everybody. Just yesterday, in fact, we partnered with Aston Martin last year to be able to design one of our laptops. So we don't just do our own designs. There are great design teams for other commercial companies around the world. And Aston Martin helped us design our new P16 laptop. And as you can imagine, with Aston Martin designing it, it looks fantastic. It looks really amazing. But one of the things that happened with that partnership is Aston Martin has come to us and said, hey, how can we partner elsewhere? What else can we do? So next month, Lenovo will be at FETC, which is a major education conference in the Southeast. It'll be in New Orleans this year. And we're going to be there with Aston Martin. And Aston Martin is interviewing a bunch of us on a panel on what makes effective STEM and CT programs, because they are interested in those kids having those skills as their future employees. And so it was a lot of fun because yesterday we were doing this mock with them, and Aston Martin asked me very specifically, so Shane, help me out. We at Aston Martin, we have a little bit better budget than most public schools, and we get to use some fantastic tools from Lenovo design cars. What do we do for schools, and how do we do that? And so I took them through most of the information I'm about to take you guys through, what we see in STEM and CT, what trends we're seeing, and how we're addressing them here at Lenovo. And I'm thinking that a lot of these things you guys will recognize. There'll be softwares that you'll understand that you're teaching in your environments. But more importantly, we're going to try to be able to line it up to the right solutions for you to be able to make it effective and budget conscious. The guys at Aston Martin, they may not understand a budget, but you guys do. So let's jump right into this and we'll have a little fun with it. All right. These are two horrible pictures because it's Scott and I at least 15 years ago. Because you can tell by the amount of hair that we have and the fact that the cheeks are still visible in these. We had dimples back then. So kind of keep that
Shane,
in mind.
I'm not sure if you're sharing your screen.
Oh, I thought it was. Okay. That's a good point.
That was a good teaser though for the.
Yeah,
It was.
for sure.
I'm not certain I can go backwards. It might not want to go backwards. Oh, there it is.
They're great
shoot.
pictures.
Yeah, those are scary for us, Scott. I'll tell you, we might need to update these one day because when we get on the street, we're unrecognizable now.
I don't know about that, man.
Incognito. Okay, so let's talk about STEM and CT and what we're seeing for 2022 and 2023, particularly the trends we're seeing out there that you guys are probably facing. We've talked to hundreds of K-12 districts around the country and started to talk about what they're seeing and what kind of challenges they're having. And we utilize this feedback from our customers and our school districts to build and make sure we produce the best products possible. So this is what we're seeing in those trends. And a couple of them are kind of new and a couple of them are continued trends. Hopefully, and hopefully maybe you guys can put it in the chat whether you've made this transition, but most people are transitioning right now from AutoCAD to Fusion 360. This has been a pretty major change in the CAD space when you're doing this, and it's really been pushed by Autodesk to get people to make that transition. So hopefully you guys are already doing this transition. Most of your curriculum providers for STEM and CTE, particularly like Project Lead the Way and those kind of guys, have already pushed this transition to happen. It moves you to the cloud. So a lot of people like that. Now the software is cloud generated and things like that. There is one gotcha though, and I've run into several districts that have run into this, and I want to make sure you guys are aware of it. Just because it's cloud software doesn't mean that the compute, when you're actually doing the models and designs, are done in the cloud. They're actually still done on the local resource. And so don't think that you're going to go to just a really low end machine or a small lab for the kids to be able to run Fusion 360. You still need to maintain those CT labs, even though it's cloud software. So we just want to make sure you're aware of that. But a lot of people have made this change to Fusion 360. Let us know if you've made that change. This change also means that a lot of people aren't teaching things like Revit anymore either. So let us know if you're not doing Revit anymore, because that seems to be moving more to the Fusion 360 side too. Game design. There is no faster major growth that I've seen, and it's not just within school districts, but across states and state curriculums that are now geared around game design. And I say that because of the takeoff of esports. I think I saw a statistic, and I could be wrong with the exact numbers on this, but it was something on the nature of like 14% of kids play high school sports, but 89% of high school kids game. And so it was just a massive amount of motivation and movement to the game space. And esports definitely helps to be able to take that off. But part of that really is making sure you have curriculum and you have classes around it. It's not just about the games themselves. And game design is a great way to do that. And quite frankly, even in industry, across the board, we play games. This isn't about playing Fortnite or playing some other kind of, Xbox game. This is really about how we do work. I go and do my training at work every year, and amazingly enough, I earn points for it. And there's a contest against it, and there's somebody that designed the game around it to be able to do that to motivate us as employees to go do more training. Game design is everywhere, and it's a big major classes that are out there. Part of it is how you design games. Part of it is how you do the software, and the software is the big challenge here. When we're designing games, it takes a pretty high-end computer to run the softwares like 3ds Max, Maya, if you're running Unreal or something like that. So just kind of keep that in mind. We can help you out. We'll be able to do that, but game design is one of those fastest growing majors. Let us know if it's one of the ones you guys are already picking up, not just esports, but that game design space. Multi-use labs. I was in a district recently. I felt so bad, but I'm used to multi-use labs where it may be like a business lab in the morning and then a CT lab in the afternoon, or a CT lab in the afternoon and the esports lab in the evening. But this one was a chemistry lab that was later a computer lab and in the same space. I mean, that was how strict the school was. They just didn't have enough space to do all these different labs. So multi-use labs is really taken off as building new buildings and new schools is very expensive compared to the student growth that's out there. And it's really important on multi-use labs to be able to figure out the softwares and the technologies that they're going to be learning in those labs, so we right size the asset to it. We recently did a major city in Florida. I almost gave away the city name, but city in Florida, where we outfitted all of their multi-use labs with our new Tiny product, but with a specialized new graphics card so that they could run everything from Fusion 360 to Adobe Premiere if they needed to within that lab, because they would do multimedia, or they would do CAD, or they'd do coding, or they'd run Python, that kind of stuff. This is a new one, and a lot of people may not have this, so let us know in the chat if you're starting to see data science or artificial intelligence as part of your curriculum. But I can tell you that I was down in Orange County in that wonderful sunny state of Florida as well, and this fall they're starting a major artificial intelligence curriculum within their CTE program. They've already bought the assets. They've outfitted the hardware. They've got the teachers in place, and they've done the teacher training and teacher education. And it's true artificial intelligence. This isn't somebody trying to build, a bot, a phone bot, or something like that. They've actually partnered with a third-party company, and they're trying to be able to figure out. I believe this one is going to be on airline parts replacements, and are trying to predict when those parts will actually fail, so you can replace them before they fail on an airplane. So predictive analytics, they just did one for the energy company down there to be able to figure out, if you had a power outage in Florida, who should get their power on first. And they did it based on things like, do we have a large handicap space? Do we have hospital systems? Do we have areas of need from a traffic perspective? They put all these things into an artificial intelligence design and then handed it to the power company to help the power company figure out exactly how they should restore power in Florida after natural disasters. So they're doing major things down there with artificial intelligence. I'm also seeing it in Guilford County, North Carolina. I'm starting to see it in a couple other districts. It is a different type of compute, but if you're gonna get there, this is the fastest growing area for computer science out there today, and it is, by the way, the highest paying computer jobs that are out in the industry today as a data scientist. So this is a real great growth spot for CT. But just if you're ready to do it, make sure you're contacting your business partner, Trafera, to be able to help you through it, because it is a challenge from a technology perspective to be able to get it in place. The fun one is flight sim. I've seen so many school districts, even school districts that have no airports around them. They're not teaching flight anywhere else, but they're teaching flight simulator. And it's because kids find it really entertaining while still learning. And the amount of learning around flight sim is really pretty fantastic. But flight sim does take some specialized hardware. So kind of keep that in mind. And it's specialized beyond even what we do here at Lenovo. There is specialized joysticks and things like that to be able to do flight sim. But it's a really growing area, and I've been amazed how many CT programs I've gone out there, that have flight sim in there. And then GIS, this has really been growing in the rural CT programs because of things like forestry service, natural resource conservation, and those kind of things. They're doing maps, LOMAR maps, and those kind of things with GIS software. So it's starting to be a real need in more of those rural CT and STEM programs, not just city planning, and not just voting maps and those kind of things. So, that's another trend we're starting to see. And then the one that's near and dear to my heart, I have both a niece and a nephew in the Wake County school districts in North Carolina that are about to graduate high school, both of them with associate's degrees from college, while graduating high school. So early college is a fantastic way for our nation to solve our student loan crisis. And a lot of school districts have really caught on to this. And if you can get kids out with associate's degrees or a lot of college credits when they're leaving high school in something that they want to study and something that they want to do, early college requirements are a way to do it. However, they're usually in tech fields, and it's usually some kind of asset that requires a little more beef than your standard high school asset to be able to make sure that they can hold that same laptop throughout their entire college space when they're in it. But it is really catching on. It does take a little bit of compute requirement, but it is a fantastic way to endeavor both for the kids as well as for us to be able to get over a national crisis in student debt. So it really is a fantastic trend. So these are the trends we've been seeing, and we're trying to build specialized assets and solutions here at Lenovo against for CT and STEM for 2023. Let us know if there's another trend or something else you're seeing that we should be able to help address with you. But this is the ones that we're really thinking about and building around for the 2023 timeframe.
And one of the things I really like, Shane, that you're talking about here, and I think it's important, when I was a director, I was always thinking of what can we do, because these are the known factors. Who knows what the unknown things are? So really having a platform that is flexible to kind of meet that. AI being a perfect example of something that wasn't on my radar 2 years ago, and is everything everyone is talking about today. So really making sure that you have that adaptability for that future is awesome. This is great.
Yeah. The hardest thing isn't really on our side. We can design and spin up products within a year or two is our kind of design envelope. It's really about having the teacher resources to be able to get after these new and emerging areas.
Yep.
So that's really the hardest part. And then the second hardest part is always boards of education to get them to adopt to it and have curriculum ready and things like that. So
yeah, for sure.
All right, so just a reminder on what those softwares you're going to address and the things you're going to see in this coming year. And all of these, we can help you right size a compute solution to be able to optimize these softwares. We've talked about Fusion 360 and the move into that, but there's still a lot of districts that have AutoCAD, so you're gonna run into AutoCAD in your spaces and Revit in your spaces. I've now seen a lot of districts starting to teach the one down in the right-hand corner, SolidWorks. SolidWorks is what we use in industry to design most things. It is by far the most popular in industry CAD package out there. And as we're seeing a lot of CT programs specifically where they want the student to go straight to industry rather than into another college program, they're starting to teach SolidWorks into a SolidWorks introduction class and not just Fusion 360 or AutoCAD. So it's important to kind of keep that in mind. The one thing with SolidWorks, so later on I'm going to talk about using an asset to be able to do esports as well as things like your AutoCAD. SolidWorks is the exception to that. There's an element of SolidWorks you can't run on gaming graphics cards. So just kind of keep that in mind. If your district is going to start teaching SolidWorks and you are trying to use dual assets or gaming graphics cards in your assets, SolidWorks can't do their real view, which is what makes a cog or an engine look like a real cog or a real engine. And so just kind of keep that in mind. And then obviously there's curriculum providers out there. These guys are setting the way, particularly when Fusion 360 and SolidWorks like Project lead the way. And then finally, there's a lot more push on rendering. So rendering is when when I'm designing something, I may do wireframe, I make it look really nice, but it doesn't have photorealism to it. It doesn't really look like what it's going to be as an end product. It doesn't have lighting, it doesn't have colorization, doesn't have any of that kind of stuff. So I render it to be that photorealistic look. And a lot of kids like that because it gives a finality to the project. It really gives them an understanding of what it's going to look like, whether I'm building an engine block or I'm just creating my name in 3 dimensions so that I can put it through the 3D printer. And those render engines are taking a little bit bigger graphics cards. And so we'll talk about a fantastic thing that NVIDIA is doing in the graphics space for us to be able to get that done. So just kind of keep in mind those render engines that are out there. Now we can still get that with our tiny product, which is the #1 product built for this space. On the media and entertainment spot, there's not a lot of new softwares here. So these are the ones you've been used to. Adobe Premiere by far dominates this space, right? So this is Adobe Premiere space. There's a couple that crept in, particularly with that game design with Unreal Engine and Unity. So you're going to run into those in game design. The 2 that are really hard is if you're teaching game design and animation. So this is where you're doing character development and things like that in game design. You're probably going to run into Maya or 3ds Max, and those require a different type of asset than what we've been running in the past. They require a pretty big graphics card because there's a lot of detail that go into that. Most game design places don't touch it. They don't touch animation. But if you are going to get into animation, you're going to get into those softwares and just kind of make sure you come to Trafera and us, and we can help you be able to right size an asset to that. And for the most part, what we do with that is we usually pick a row in a lab and make those ready for that kind of software, not the whole lab, because it's so expensive. There's one on here a lot of people may not be aware of, but I'm seeing a lot with esports, and this is that purple one that looks like a bunch of triangular boxes. That's called Avid. Avid is the #1 software you see for creating newsreels. So if you went to your local NBC studio to watch the news, the guy in the background is using Avid to edit that news. The reason I bring it up, and particularly with the advent of esports, is there's an awful lot of people that are putting broadcasting around their esports programs as one of their curriculum elements. And so you're going to have a software that's going to be editing that broadcast. Most do Premiere Pro, so Adobe Premiere Pro, but some are using Avid. So just kind of keep that in mind. That's what you'd run into there. Okay. This has always been a challenge, and it's a growing challenge, honestly. Esports is really taking off. There's no holding the cork anymore. Everybody wants to put esports programs in their schools. It's a real challenge because of networking challenges and port addressability and all sorts of other things from an IT perspective. But it's also a challenge when it comes to the assets. And if I was a CT director out there today, I know that I'm going to get to ask the question that says, hey, you already have a computer with a graphics card that can run Rocket League or League of Legends or something like that. Can we make your lab the esports lab? And I'm going to say, well, that's fantastic for you to say that, but my lab as an esports lab doesn't have headsets. It doesn't have low latency mice or keyboards so that you can win the game. It doesn't have FreeSync or G-Sync displays hooked up to it so you can win the game. So if you want to play the game head to head in my lab, sure, go right ahead. But if you want to play it against another school that's got an esports program, you're going to lose. And your students aren't going to like it. And it's not going to be the best experience. So very frequently when we run into this one, and I'm in the school districts, we have a real honest conversation. Are you an esports team or are you an esports club? And let me help you with that. An esports team has a dedicated space. Your football team has a dedicated football field. Your esports team has a dedicated space for esports. They're not using a lab for it. They have their own room, their own space, their own equipment to be able to get it done. They have a coach. It's not just a teacher that's in there after school and getting paid a little extra money. They've got a coach that's helping them with teamwork and positioning and how they actually be able to address all those kind of things. Usually the school district started curriculum around it. Usually they've started fundraising around it. So your football team has a fundraiser. Your esports team should too. So it has an awful lot of that. And your IT department is already signed up for other things that happen in true esports programs. For example, every Tuesday morning, that image on that machine gets reloaded every Tuesday morning. When you're on these esports programs, it has to have the exact drivers, the exact software every time for the head-to-head play. And that's how they keep it fair. So if you're that, you're an esports team. If you're anything else besides that, you're an esports club. If you're a club, you can put it in a CT lab. You definitely can. And we will make you a great hybrid workstation CT box that can run your AutoCADs, that can run your Adobes during the day and run your esports in the afternoon without teaching distraction, without lots of flashy lights or any of those kind of things. We'll build you a workstation to be able to get that done. But we'll build it with low latency mice and low latency keyboards and things like that so you can still be competitive when you're playing the game. But you're a club. If you're a team, if you've got your dedicated space, we've got a whole nother product line for that we call the Lenovo Legion line. And it will have all of the bells and whistles. It'll be really colorful. It's what the kids expect to see in an esports box. It will have bright computer keyboards and real low latency gaming mice that look like they're from outer space. And they'll have dedicated headsets to every box. And it will be set up to be able to, use the utility to reload every Tuesday morning and all of these kinds of things. So we can help you through this and be able to navigate this path, but it is a tricky one. And so, kind of utilize us to do this. Go through your checklist. Are you a team or are you a club? If you're a club, we can build you that hybrid workstation. If you're a team, we can get you the right kind of gaming systems out there. And help you with that too. And we can even help you with the software that can do that Tuesday load and all of those kind of things. So I know it's a hard question, so just let us know how we can help on that one. All right. Administration and teachers. The one thing that hasn't happened since the advent of Windows 10 and even Windows 7 to an extent, but since Windows 10 is the graphics workload on a computer has exponentially gone up. And then with COVID, we added something else called Teams or Zoom, like we're on now. And that made the graphics workload really shoot up, even more fast than our exponential growth that we had before. Now, computers, they're not really designed to show graphics. That's not what they're designed to do. They're designed to do mathematical calculations, right? We do compute. That's what a computer does. Graphics cards are designed to do parallel calculations. That's what graphics is. And so what we've tried to do at Lenovo is build a line of laptops for teachers, faculty, and administration that will have that kind of compute that you would get in a laptop, but then a very small but dedicated graphics card to help you with your Teams or your Zoom or all this graphics offset. So very minor cost up, or in some cases, if you go AMD, no cost up at all. AMD actually puts in dedicated graphics boards into their processing chips, and therefore you pay nothing else for it. And it costs exactly the same, except now you have dedicated GPU space. And this makes a huge difference if you're a faculty member that's also on Zoom calls, or if you're going to be able to do lots of Teams meetings and things like that while you're doing your workloads. It really makes your performance go up for a very, very small delta in the cost. And we make it more importantly for teachers in that middle product, that P16S, because it has the integrated 10-key keypad right into it. So you're doing grading, you're going to be able to input any of that kind of numeric information. That 10-key keypad is right there, integrated right into the keyboard, that makes it a lot easier for teachers. So just kind of be thinking about that whole products around administration, faculty, and teachers too, mostly about handling that graphics workload that's not going away. It's only going to get worse going forward. All right. So just to recap, we talked about the softwares that are going to be there and the hardware solutions we have. I'm going to take 2 seconds and talk about a couple of those hardware solutions. We don't really think that STEM CT has to be that complicated here at Lenovo. We essentially tackle it with two products and then variants of those two products, but really only two products. In the labs, it is our Tiny. Now, we have been making this Tiny product. This is a 1 liter, very small desktop workstation. It's the height of a golf ball, so it's very thin, very tiny, hence its name Tiny. But it comes with a powerful Core i7 processors from Intel or Core i5, but a new graphics card from NVIDIA. And that's what I was hinting at before, having the ability to have one machine that can do both Adobe Premiere as well as AutoCAD and Fusion 360. And this has finally done it. So in this chart, you can see that under the graphics, I have NVIDIA T1000 4GB. NVIDIA just changed this. And so now it is a NVIDIA 8GB T1000. And that means that I have 8 gig of dedicated video memory. I can finally run Adobe Premiere on a tiny tiny workstation. So it really opens up the aperture to have one machine to be able to dominate your lab space, and that is your P360 Tiny. Now, the reason that P360 Tiny is such a fantastic lab guy is because of the invention of our Tiny-in-One monitor. So this is a monitor where that computer is slid directly into the back of it. And you can kind of see this one. I have it as the desktop, but you slide it right into the back of the monitor. It actuates in the power, the graphics, and the USB. That is deployment. That's done. You know, there's no other cables to run or no other things to be able to be done to be able to deploy this. And the best thing is not only get that all-in-one feel, but if the computer ages out after 2 years or 3 years and the monitor ages out after 6 years, it's not a problem. Just take the computer out the back, put a new one in, and you're redeployed. And that way you've decoupled the glass from the computer, and it really saves you money while still getting that all-in-one lab experience. Easy cable management. There's not a lot of cords. There's not all that stuff going on. So this is really what has made that Tiny and the Tiny-in-One the lab box for STEM and CT. And now with that new 8 gig graphics card, we can even do it for Adobe Premiere. We don't have to get the big towers out anymore. And then it's the laptops. And when I say there's two products, there's the Tiny and then there's the laptops. It's the P14S and the P16S. They're really the same laptop. So that's why I say it's really one thing. They're the same laptop with two different screens. There's a 14-inch screen or a 16-inch screen. That's really what it comes down to. Just depends on the size you want. But that's really what it comes down to, is really fast laptops with Core i7 processors. And it's a new processor from Intel. It's this new P-class processor that really can put a lot more capabilities on your plate for you. It has that dedicated graphics card, that 4 gig graphics card from NVIDIA to offload all that graphics workload, and a really bright screen. And we started doing these bright screens because we found that a lot of classes now are starting to move outdoors. And if you want to be able to teach outdoors in the sunlight and see your laptop screen, we needed to give you a brighter screen. So we're really giving you bright screens on these. And new this year is a much bigger battery. We are actually getting Mobile Mark battery tests right now, 25 hours. So that gives you the ability to go all day, finally throughout an entire class day, running and doing work without having to run back to the desk and plug in. And so the P14S and its sister, the P16S, again, you can get them both in Intel or in AMD. Again, they're the same laptop, but on the internals, it's just the outside is 16 inches versus 14 inches. And of course, with the 16-inch, we had the extra real estate to add that 10-key keypad too. And no ever implementation of say Adobe Lab is better without a better monitor. So I love the Tiny-in-One monitors we have. They're fantastic. They're really good business monitors. They're great for your AutoCADs and things like that. But when you get into real video editing, really high-end video editing, all of those are FHD displays and they're 72% color gamut. These monitors on the screen are 100% color gamut and they're QHD or 4K. And it really makes a difference when I'm doing video editing work. So when you get into that pro area, if you're really investing heavy, if you're trying to future-proof an Adobe Lab, those kind of things, or if you're doing that broadcasting for your esports, you might want to think about outfitting with a couple of these kind of more high-end displays. I wouldn't do all your labs with them. Very, very expensive compared to that. I would always use the Tiny-in-One. But you might want to put 1 or 2 in there so they can really see colorization, because that's what they're going to use in industry. They're not going to use an FHD display in industry. So as you can see, we've put a lot of thought into what we think is the right solutions. We've tested with tons of schools. I can't believe how successful we've actually been with CTE programs, especially with the Tiny and the P14S. Great products out there, great trends that are happening that those products address. But there are new trends on the horizon: artificial intelligence, heavy data, gaming design, and things like that may push the envelope to bigger solutions. So when you get there, bring in Trafera, bring in myself, and we'll be able to make sure we can help you be able to solution that with the best intentions, both to compute and your budget. So with that said, Scott, I think I'll turn it back to you. Or if there's any questions you can have in the chat, and we can answer them up.
That is awesome, Shane. So appreciate it. And man, it makes me so excited to see all the different options. One of the things that really excites me, I love those Tinies. Kind of gives you that flexibility of all those benefits of that all-in-one, like you said, with the flexibility to be able to change things out and better. So that's awesome. I'm already, my head is just spinning about all the different opportunities there. Kate, did we have any questions in the chat? I didn't see any, but
I think people are a little sleepy before Christmas here, so no questions in the chat.
Eating that turkey early.
Yeah, maybe, probably. No questions in the chat. So I'm just going to go ahead and launch our exit survey. You could let me know if you see that. That would be great.
So do keep in mind with the Christmas spirit coming up as we're doing that exit survey. Santa does live on cookies, but his reindeer run on carrots. So make sure your kids are putting out carrots.
Survey's coming.
Carrot cookies, love it.
I don't see it yet, Kate.
Here, how about I make you host and you can see if you can launch it.
Let me, Shane, could you stop sharing screen? Let's see if we can do that. And then let's see if I can launch.
There it is.
Yeah. Cool.
Perfect. Sorry, technical difficulties there.
Kate, something I figured out a few years ago is as soon as technology got into my my job description, all of a sudden tech stuff liked me. I don't know why.
Maybe I should try that.
It drives my wife nuts.
All right. Well, we'll just give you guys some time to fill out that survey. If you have any questions, you can go ahead and unmute yourself if you want, or you can keep asking them, or rather start asking them in the chat. But I'll take a little bit of time just to say thank you. Thanks to Shane and Scott for being here today on our last Cofee and Convo of the year. Super exciting stuff to think about as you approach 2023 and the new year, coming up with all sorts of new ideas on how we can transform the teaching and learning experience within our own district. So thank you guys for being here. Thanks for everyone who participated and have been here throughout the whole year. It's been so much fun. Great. And then, so yeah, with that, I guess we will close her out. Thank you guys and have a very happy holiday season. See you in 2023.
All right,
Bye.
see everybody.
Happy holidays. Happy holidays, everybody.
Bye.